Hey everybody, welcome to Aboveboard episode 9.
XR or GT platform?
I like it. Let's go.
All right, so this kind of all came about, as we've said in the past. Dave and I don't really have a long list. We've got a handful of things we want to discuss, but a day or two before the podcast, Dave will call me. So what do you want to talk about?
Right.
And this comes up mainly because right now, as we're approaching race season, is when I'm getting all the requests for various parts. And over the years, I've gotten this question quite a bit, but it seems to really be hitting hard lately. And that is, what products am I going to stock for the XR, the OG XR, not the new XR Classic, but the old, the Plus and the XR back in the years gone by. Am I going to be stocking or updating my product line for the older XR platform versus the GT platform? Because if you guys notice, the bulk of my product line is focused on the GT, GTS, GTXL platform. So what I wanted to talk about today was the differences between the platforms, why my product, well, this isn't just about me. So why the aftermarket, for a large part of the aftermarket, seems to focus on the GT platform, and why a certain portion of the aftermarket focuses on the old XR platform.
Right.
So this is not a long-running commercial for me or anything, but it's just a question that I get. Hey, are you going to make, like with the 12.8 rails, are you going to make 12.8 rails for the XR? I noticed that you're developing them for the GT, or billet battery and controller boxes, which I made for the XR platform years ago. Am I going to be reintroducing those? A couple other questions, axle carriers to fit a GT stator in the XR chassis. These are common requests that I get. I know the Float Life gets these requests also. Other people in the aftermarket are getting these same requests. So I've been typing a lot of answers to this question, repeating it over and over. So I figure we may as well discuss it on a podcast.
Yeah.
So a little bit of background first on this. So the XR platform, the OG XR, I think it was, well, first it came out as the Plus. That would have been 7 or 8 years ago. And then the XR, which was the Plus XR, which is extra range. And the XR came out, I might be wrong on this, but maybe 6 years ago, something like that. And so that was the popular board for some time. And then when the GT came out, which was, I believe now, probably between 3 and 4 years ago is when the GT came out, Future Motion then phased out the old XR platform and was selling out of inventory. And then they had a temporary re-release. I think they had enough parts to build like 100 of them or something. So they built some and you could buy another one, and they sold them off. Well, what happened was when the VESC thing was becoming popular was before the GT was even invented. And so you had only the Plus and XR, which are the same chassis platform, to choose from. And so all of the early VESC stuff, the Lil Fokker 301, Lil Fokker 301, I think was the first controller. That was the common VESC controller. So everybody was installing those in the GT platform. So VESC really got started on the GT platform, and I know because back then I was making billet controller boxes that controller would fit in. Well, then when the GT platform came out, at that point the VESC platform was still, or the VESC software, firmware and software wasn't well developed yet. People would brag about, I made it around the block without the board dumping me, because the firmware and the software was so bad. And so it was still really in its early stages. So the GT platform comes out from Future Motion, and the performance was quite good compared to the OG XR. I mean, anyone that's just gotten into this in the last couple of years are going to be like, the GT sucks. No. The GT was light years better than the XR from a performance standpoint.
Right.
Now, a lot of people didn't like the GT platform because it's loosely based on the Pint. So before the GT came out, the Pint came out. And the GT has this very raw, kind of basic design language to it. And the Pint is much more corporate looking, like something you would purchase at a department store or something.
Yeah.
Curved profile rails and
Yep.
and didn't have wooden foot pads, came with injection molded plastic foot pads. And when you took it apart, it was obvious that it was designed on CAD, not sketched, or whatever. And so, and there was people... Mass production, exactly.
Yeah.
And so the GT basically is a Pint platform blown up. People used to kid around and call it the Maxi Pint. And it was a thing. And so the GT was bigger and heavier and thicker, but had more torque than an XR, than an OG XR. And I'm sorry, but it does. Those that hate the GT, take a bone stock OG XR, ride that, and then ride a bone stock GT.
Yeah.
Massive difference.
Well, I've heard those things, the GTs get phenomenal amount of mileage.
Of range.
Too,
Yeah.
range,
Oh, yeah. If you're riding, say, at 15 miles an hour cruising on the pavement, you'll get... Future Motion rates it at 32 miles. I got 34 was the record that I got.
That's pretty
And so I would say safely 25 to 30 miles of range, unless you're beating on it, whereas the XR was like 12 miles. And when you would climb a hill on an XR, it would surge. You would have to, if you approached a hill, you'd have to speed up to the hill and decelerate as you climb the hill because it didn't have enough torque to make it, whereas the GT would just plow right up the hill.
Right.
So the GT, anyone that wanted just a pure, plug and play, turn the button on and ride it board, the GT was the only option. The VESC stuff still hadn't matured yet. It was still very problematic. And I know the VESC devotees will push back against that, but it's true at the time. Mm-hmm. Now VESC stuff is way off. It's awesome. But at the time, VESC was still really new.
Right.
So people were buying GTs and modifying them. And so then right at that point, OneWheel Parts and I had partnered up. This was early 2023, and sales were through the stratosphere. And I was making products for the OG XR, the GT, and the Pint platform. But I sold twice as much.
I'll put my hat on real quick here.
Oh, come on, man.
Sorry.
All right.
There we go.
Do
Now
we
we're
start
official.
over? Good grief.
Oh.
So I was making parts for the OG XR, which also fits the Plus, the Pint platform, and the GT platform. And I was selling 2 to 3 times more parts for the GT than the Pint and XR platforms combined. Now, back then, there were still the sales numbers were so high, I could make batches of GT or batches of Pint and XR stuff, and it was fine. The GT stuff still far and away outsold it, but the sales numbers were so high, I could make stuff for everything. Middle of 2023, everything dropped. We've talked about that. The sales dropped. Not of one-wheel stuff, but just consumer spending cut in half. So all of a sudden, it was still very profitable to make GT parts. And some XR stuff would sell, almost nothing for the Pint whatsoever. The Pint stuff, the tap for the Pint orders basically stopped. So my manufacturer, a couple of factories that are making Pint stuff for me, they had a surplus of stuff. So they would still anodize some rails and ship them to me, and some wheels and whatever. And so that was fine, and we were slowly selling out of it. And the XR stuff was still selling semi-okay, and it's okay. But the GT stuff is selling really well, whereas XR stuff sells a little bit, Pint stuff virtually nothing. And with the size of the Float Life compared to me, they are supporting the Pint market and the XR market, and I still do as well. I still have some stuff for them. Pint Halos still sell great and that, but rails not so much. Okay, so that's a bit of a background on the boards themselves and a little bit of VESC. Well, currently, you've got the VESC community. I would say 50% of the VESC community are devoted to the XR platform, the early XR platform. The other 50% of the VESC community is a mix between XR and GT, and those are the people that are putting drop-in kits in primarily. There are several guys that are still building from scratch, doing their own wiring and that, Tronic controllers and that on the GT platform. But I would say the bulk of board builders that are building boards from scratch, where they've got to solder their own wire harness together and all that, probably 2/3 of those are the OG XR platform. And so I would say probably 50-50 of the products that I sell are to XR guys with XR, or VESC boards versus GT boards. So half of the salespeople tell me I've got a stock GTS and I want your stuff. 50% of the orders will tell me I've got a VESC board and I want your stuff. So that's some history and some numbers that I have to preface my my next statements by. So for me, as a business owner, I can only produce what justifies itself being produced. And it's funny, I don't even really necessarily need to know that a product line is going to be super profitable. I just need to know that I'm not upside down.
Right.
So to give an example, I need to order a minimum of 10 of something to get any of the machine shops to do anything, and I pay a premium for that. They won't produce something in less than a 10 count. I only get decent pricing at a 50 count. And that's 50 count is fine for things like the axle cooling sets, stator and axle cooling sets. Ordered 50 of them, not a big deal. Halos, I can order in batches of 50, no problem, because I'll sell out of them. Ice blocks, I can order in 50 count. Screw sets, I can order in 50 count. Wheels, I can order in 50. I mean, the stuff that sells well, I can order in a 50 count. Certain rails, I can order in a 50 count. I can't order switchblades in a 50 count. They cost way too much, and they sell well, but I'll sell one set of switchblades for like every 3 sets of non-switchblade rails. So I pay the premium to only order 10 sets. So when I order XR parts, I'm only ordering 10 sets at a time. And so I pay a premium for them, and yet people are willing to pay less. So with GT parts, I've got a certain profit margin that I can make, because I've got, I order stuff in 50 lot, which means I get a better price. They sell for a little bit more because the GT platform costs more to buy. The products are larger. They're just more expensive. So the profit margin on GT parts is enough to justify producing them and actually make a little bit of a profit on them. I don't make a killing on this stuff. People think I triple my money. That does not happen.
Right.
So, but anyway, the GT stuff is profitable enough to support the business, the overhead and stuff. XR stuff, kind of.
Yeah.
So I'll order a 10 count of XR rails, and instead of costing this much and selling for this much, they'll cost me this much and sell for this much. So I make a very small margin on XR stuff.
Yeah.
Partly because people are only willing to spend less for XR parts, and they cost me more to make because of my lower quantity.
Right.
So that's why there isn't often as much of an inventory for XR parts, but I do still stock them, and I do still stock some pint stuff too.
Yeah.
So does the float life of my products.
Right.
But when people ask about, am I going to develop 12/8 rails for the XR platform, it gets a little tougher. And I'm not saying no. The answer is actually yes. We are working on it, but it's not on the front burner.
Right.
GT stuff is on the front burner, beginning to boil over because race season's coming. So I'm focusing all of my attention on it. Got to go. Race season's coming, and everybody's asking for parts.
Right.
And still, the bulk of the race boards are GT platform, mainly because there are still, the Future Motions race series is for their stock boards only. So guys that can't afford a whole bunch of boards will set up their board stock for Future Motions race series, but then they'll put my products on their GTXL to race in the open classes that allow for FM boards or VESC boards. So I'm still getting plenty of sales for GT stuff, and I get enough sales for XR parts to make it worth producing them. But I honestly the business doesn't really make any money on it. What it costs for me to make them versus what I sell them for, yes, there's a markup. But then by the time I pay for liability insurance, accounting, website costs, all the other related expenses, XR parts, I sort of break even on them, kind of. I mean, there is still sort of a profit in it, but I don't take a paycheck off of XR parts.
Right.
Any profit that is made on them, I end up paying for CAD work to update them to move forward for the next version. So XR stuff, honestly, it's it's not a very profitable venture. And so, yes, I have a passion for it. And yes, I would do this whether it made me money or not. But the reality is, if I can never make a dime off of it in profit at all, it really would take a back burner to the rest of my life because I have bills to pay.
Yeah.
So for me, I go, all right, I got to focus the bulk of my attention on the GT platform. Then as I have extra time, all right, let's update the XR platform. And so right now, we are in testing of the 12.8 rails. I'm moving my arms around enough. My watch says that it detected exercise.
Whoa.
Do I really use my arms that much when I talk? Good grief. So right now, I got prototype 12.8 rails that I showed pictures of. They weren't even anodized, just raw aluminum. Assembled a board, posted pictures. A couple people commented that even though the tire's not rubbing or anything, that there's 3 or 4 millimeters of clearance. It should probably really be more like 6 or 7 millimeters of tire clearance for tire growth and all that. So that set of rails is right now, I think it was this morning, yesterday afternoon or this morning, got photographs of the board built from the beta tester. I built it, assembled it, but I'm not ride testing it. I'm not an aggressive rider, and it's winter here. So I sent them to an aggressive rider in a warm climate that promised that he would test them thoroughly. So he's going to be testing them. We're going to be, right off the bat, I know we're going to increase the tire clearance in the rear, but he was also just going to give me any other feedback that he has, strength testing, thermal testing, all of that.
Some jumps on them, huh?
Do some jumps with them in that, yes. And so those are being tested, and I'm positive those are going into production probably within the week. It'll take a couple months to get them produced, but probably begin production within a week.
Yeah.
And then once we know that is good, then I can go ahead and take my XXL XR rails, which a couple people have sent me pictures of 12.8 tires on a board with those rails, but the sidewall is a few millimeters away from the edge of the rails. The tread is a few millimeters away from the boxes. So they do need to be widened and lengthened.
Yeah.
But I don't know exactly how much.
Yeah.
But yes, we are going to make 12.8 rails for the XR. It's just with all that background and history and knowing the sales volume, the GT platform had to come first. So that's where we're at with it. Now, when it comes to pint stuff, I've had several requests lately, 3 or 4, for 357s, pint 357s again. You've got a set of pint 357s.
Yes, I do.
And are they for sale?
Actually, the board might be sold tonight.
Okay. So, and TFL ordered a batch of inventory from me that included pint 357s, which come with integrated carriers. They're actually they're a really nice set, if I don't mind saying so myself.
Yeah.
Great set of rails. I don't know if TFL is sold out or not, but if you're looking for pint 357s or standard length XR 357s, TFL had ordered a batch from me. Again, I don't know. I think they were selling out and then going to reorder, but you can check TFL's website for that. But with pint stuff, the problem is I would almost need to just order like 5 sets of pint rails.
757s?
Well, that is coming. For the GT platform, I have 757 rails that we're working on. And
I would love it for a pint.
For a pint. Yeah, so the big question becomes, and this is something TFL noticed as well, when I talked to Jeff McCosker about placing his first order, I had made the observation that the GT platform sells 5 times more than the pint platform, and the GT platform sells about twice as much as the XR platform, and he agreed. You know, when he placed his initial order with me, it was like, you know, this much GT stuff, this much XR stuff, this much pint stuff. And yet the GT stuff still was selling down in inventory faster than the XR and Pint.
Of course, yeah.
So I'm totally open to it. When the Pint S came out, I was kind of assuming that platform would start selling faster, and I got a very, very brief burst of orders. It was like a week that all of a sudden Pint stuff stepped up in sales, and then it cut back down again.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at with it. I'm not dropping the Pint and XR lines. That's not happening. It's just what will do is when there's enough money in the account to justify it, I'll order a batch, and then I just kind of sit on it. And eventually I get annoyed that I'm sitting on the inventory so long, I mark it down to move it. But I mark it down usually to basically my cost, a tiny bit over my cost, but when you factor in then just business expenses, I don't get paid anything off it. So, and people are like, well, that's great. If you can do that and provide us a discount on stuff, yeah, but the problem is then I still have customer service stuff. I still have all the labor to ship it. And if there's an issue with a product, I didn't make any money on it, and I got to warranty it. So that means that in the off season, I lose money on pint sales. People can tell me they don't believe me, whatever, it's true.
Oh, yeah.
When you factor all the business expenses in, the pint stuff, in the hot season, right in the middle of summer, I make a small profit on pint stuff after all expenses. And an okay profit on XR stuff, and a decent profit on GT stuff. But in the off season, like right now, pint stuff, I lose money on it.
Yeah.
I break even until I have a warranty problem. Now I got to eat that, so that means I actually lose money on pint aftermarket product sales. So that's why things are stacked the way they are. So GT versus XR platform, yep, I am working on XR stuff. It is moving forward. I am updating things, even things like the XR Crazy Hubs. I'm looking at making a couple of revisions on that. We've been running a big sale on them because we had just a surplus inventory.
Yeah.
They sell at a consistent rate, but slower than they used to, just because it's
So with an
not being
XR
refreshed.
hub, that'll also fit into a pint?
An XR hub fits into a pint.
Okay.
So the pint stator is the same internal dimensions as XR. So if you got a pint, you can put a pint wheel on an XR or an XR wheel on a pint. The stator will fit, but it won't plug in. But the stator axle length of a pint versus an XR is the same. So yeah, that's the similarity there. Okay. So that's kind of my big product explanation as to, why am I not doing more? Oh, also, one thing I'd like to bring up too is that when Vesk stuff was kicking in real strong, and I was developing products for the Vesk community, the Vesk community was unsure what they wanted. Now, things have much more stabilized in the Vesk community than it used to be, but early on, I'd get a dozen requests for something or 20 requests for something. And so I'd go through the design time, the CAD drawing time, prototyping, would order production. That would take a few months total to get all that done. By the time that product would come in, none of it would sell because the Vesk community had moved on and their opinion had changed. I don't want to offend people in the Vesk community, but if you've been in Vesk for say 3 years or more, you have to give that to me. You got to agree, or you got to admit that's true. So the Vesk thing, I got frustrated with it because I was stuck with inventory I couldn't sell. That's not so much the case anymore. The Vesk community has really, Vesk has come into its own. And so if I produce Vesk specific products, the odds are high I'll be able to sell them, and the Vesk community isn't sort of changing their minds, vacillating from one thing to another like it used to be. But I wanted to bring that up because back then, it was getting difficult for me as a manufacturer, and there were a lot of other small guys that were starting out. Kyle Clausen was starting to make his parts, and Vow and some of the other companies that are out there were starting to make their stuff truly in the Vesk direction only. And Fungineers and different companies, they have Vesk only focused products. And when that was occurring was right in the heyday of TechRails where we had hit our stride and we're selling a decent amount. And so out of kindness to them in their cottage industries, as TechRails was becoming a larger player, I sort of stepped back a bit from the Vesk development, and I didn't know anything about Vesk at the time. So the way the industry was stacked, the bulk of my clients were FM owners, and only a few were in the Vesk community. And I was selling a large enough volume to future motion owners that I really didn't need sales from the Vesk side. And I didn't want to step on the toes of the small Vesk builders that were out there. And I specifically told them that. I called Kyle Klossing, I talked to Steve Schoonmaker, and I talked to these other guys, and I let them know. I said, just so you know, I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes here. In fact, I'd rather work with you. If there's something that I can produce to help you, I would like to do that. Because I think it was scaring people that I was out there and coming out with new idea after new idea after new idea. So out of kindness to the Vesk developers, I eased up on my products that were Vesk specific and focused more on products that could be used on the OneWheel, the Future Motion OneWheel platform. And if it can be used for Vesk, wonderful. All the foot pads and frame rails and wheels and axle carriers and all that work fine in the Vesk community, for the Vesk community anyway. It was more things like wiring stuff, controllers, and controller boxes that were Vesk specific, or adapters that would make a Superflux motor fit into GT rails or whatever. So I chose not to focus too much on that, again, not to take sales away from the Vesk specific guys out there, and they were very appreciative of it. And so I have found my niche, which is to focus on the Future Motion platform, while understanding that Vesk stuff will be used for it. And some of my stuff really leans toward the Vesk community, but it's really, it's more the GT platform that's friendly both to Future Motion and Vesk products. So that's that whole explanation. Got a little bit wordy there, but
it's okay.
But there's a lot to it. And so you can imagine, I wanted to do this podcast because you can imagine what it's like to try to manually respond to every DM that asks about this.
Yeah.
And thank you guys for DMing me. I don't want you to think that you can't. But the problem will be that I'll get 6 or 8 of this same question every day, and I either spend a half hour and 800 words explaining all of it, or I give what's considered a very terse response, and people think I'm pushing them off. That's not the case at all. I don't want to push anybody off. But when I only have so much time, and this takes a long explanation to type out and explain why things have gone the way they have. So yes, I have XR stuff coming out for the 12.8 tire. Yes, I'm working on new XR stuff. Yes, I'm working on stuff that will benefit the Vesk community. But I had to get through all the new stuff for the GT platform and get that in production so that I can have product in stock for race season before I focused on that. And that is pretty much done now. And so now we are now stepping into updating the XR line, and I'm looking at what do I do with the Pint stuff moving forward.
Yeah, I think it'd be pretty cool. Honestly, I was just thinking while you were talking it would be pretty neat to actually have like a Pint series racing series.
It would be interesting.
I think it'd be fun. You would bring on a lot of kids to do it, but boy,
a Clydesdale series on Pints.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Oh my gosh!
I mean, you
guys
could have an
nursing
open
the
class
board
pint,
so it doesn't dump you.
You could put an open class Pint series out there where you could bring a Vesk Pint or whatever, or you could have an OG Pint series, you could have a whole bunch of different classes, but it would kind of revive the whole Pint thing because Pints are fun. I mean,
well, a Pint, I'm a car guy. I consider a Pint like a Miata, or we own 2 Mini Coopers.
Yeah.
And Minis are awesome cars.
Yeah, they are. I used to have one.
You did? What did you have?
I had that 2003, I want to say 2003 or 2005. I can't remember. Was classic red with white top. It was a John Cooper Works edition, so it was the racing edition.
Okay, so it's
super hard clutch. Dual exhaust out the back.
Was it that in that era? They were supercharged.
Yes,
the John Cooper Works, not turbo. So the new ones are all turbo. So so we have. My wife drives a, and I know this is totally off in the weeds, but that's fine. I didn't know you had. You mentioned it to me, but I'd forgotten about it. Okay. So my wife's daily driver is a 2023 Mini Cooper SE, which is an electric.
Yeah.
Awesome little car. If you know anything about Minis and BMWs and EVs, BMW made a car called the i3, which was a rear-wheel drive EV that you could get also with like a scooter engine as a generator. Well, they took the rear-wheel drive electric drivetrain out of that, which is I'm going to misquote, but I think 182 horsepower, if I remember right, and like 300 foot-pounds of torque, lots of torque. That's probably wrong. You guys are going to look it up and then correct me. But it was high torque, but I think it was 182 horsepower. Took it out of the back end of the BMW i3 and put it under the hood of a little Mini Cooper two-door.
Yeah.
So that car is a little rocket. In fact, you put it in sport mode and turn off the traction control, and it just spins the tires everywhere.
I bet.
So great car, inexpensive, awesome car. So that's my wife's daily. It's gloss gray in color with a black top, black interior, really classy car. And then we have a 2024 Mini Cooper, or is it a 23? I think it's a 24 Mini Cooper John Cooper Works convertible. So it was, at the time, the most expensive Mini you could buy.
Yeah.
But it was awesome. We had sold the dealer a BMW convertible that we had during COVID. And we sold it to the dealer for almost what we paid for it. So we got huge money back off of it. But then we missed our convertible, and we liked Minis. Minis are cheaper to maintain, the modern ones. Cheaper to maintain than a BMW.
Are not.
Yeah, the old ones are, yeah.
You gotta take the front bumper off for everything.
Yeah, for everything. So we bought a new Mini convertible to replace my wife's BMW that she loved so much. So anyway, so that's our automotive history.
I'll
But
have to show you.
But the Pint is like either a Miata or a Mini Cooper. Little bitty cars, lots of fun, awesome. But let's face it, it's not, if you were going to have only one car, unless you're a small person, it might not be a Mini Cooper or a Miata. You'd probably have a small SUV or something like that. But then the little car, the Mini Cooper or the Miata, is your weekend fun car. Or I'm just going to run to the store, the weather's nice, I'm going to grab the
I always
little
liked
car.
that Countryman, though, too. It had a little room in
We
it.
had a Countryman, too.
Yeah.
We had a Countryman hybrid, a plug-in hybrid.
Oh, wow.
So it was gas front-wheel drive, electric rear-wheel drive.
Oh,
So when it was all-wheel drive, it was gas and electric together.
that's cool.
And we actually traded that in on our 23 Honda Odyssey van that I drove up in. So, and there's a long story as to why that. But we've had two different electric Minis. So we've had four Mini Coopers, and they're awesome cars. They really are. But to be honest with you, if I was going to have only one car, it wouldn't be a Mini. And we have two Minis, but neither of them are. So we have two Mini Coopers, but we also have two other cars. So my wife's daily is the Mini electric, but if she's going to drive for any distance, she'll grab the van, or if the weather's nice enough, we grab the convertible.
Yeah.
And that's the way Pints are. Like I have two Pints. I have a totally stock Pint X, as in totally stock. Not even the tire, not the grip tape, nothing is.
Keep that thing
aftermarket.
charged?
It's just, yes, I do. Yes, I do. I check it. And I keep that board bone stock. It looks like a used car. It's beat up. But that's for when people come over and they want to try it. When my son's over with his girlfriend and they want to go for a ride, he'll take out my XR Classic, which is also totally bone stock in every way.
Yeah,
Not even grip tape change. So I've got my stock Pint X and stock XR Classic with the recurve rails. And that is for when my son wants to go riding with a friend or his girlfriend or whatever.
Yeah.
They take those two boards out. And then I've got another Pint, which is completely tricked out. Every part that I make, it's vest and an aftermarket battery.
I love that Pint, too.
It is awesome.
It is awesome. It's way out
so
of my price range, but it's awesome.
It's not a high voltage board, so it's only a 20-mile-an-hour Pint.
So awesome.
It looks awesome. It's real powerful. It's great. It's got good range. So I love the Pint platform. And for me, a Pint is for when my wife says, "Matt, we're leaving in 15 minutes." I want to get a ride in. I power on the Pint, throw it out my front door, jump on it, and ride around the street in front of my house.
Yeah.
And then I shut it off and put it back in the house. But if I'm going to ride for distance, if I'm going to go for a 20-mile ride, it's not going to be the Pint. And not because of range issues. It's a small, lightweight, squirrely little board. Tons of fun. It is awesome. But a big, heavier board is great for just long distances or huge torque. If I'm going to do off-road riding, it's not going to be the Pint.
We should put a series on, Aboveboard Pint series. We got a place to ride right across the street from my house.
We do. We actually do. Decent place to ride.
Yeah, it's a good place. We could do a full-on trail.
So I got to build a high-voltage Pint. I really do.
Well, I tell you, if I end up getting something different a different pint, hopefully, maybe today, maybe later. I want to build my pint to look like your pint. That would be awesome. Because you have the flared foot pads out, you have the whole setup. I love it. It's
Or just buy my pint.
I don't know. I probably put enough money into it. I as you can probably see, this is my XRC, and it's fully tricked out, of course. That's the GTS. It's fully tricked out. And I got my other pint over there, which is fully tricked out too. I just have a problem of tricking out my boards.
Well, I do too. And now I manufacture
I think
products.
maybe that would have rubbed off on me because you have some cool stuff. I gotta have it.
Well, I am very, very blessed to be able to, like, yesterday I assembled a board, and it's for sale. In fact, I got a guy that said he
The one
wants to
that you
send me
posted yesterday?
Yeah,
That's
yeah, the
cool looking
magnesium
too.
one. So there's a guy supposed to be sending me a deposit on it. But that board was that was just based on I had a totally stock GT with everything I make on it, but totally stock electronics.
Yeah.
It was a pavement princess. It had only ever been ridden on the street, never in wet, never in trails, nothing. So, but I sold, somebody bought the OG rails and foot pads and stuff and beadlock wheel. It was one of the first beadlock wheels I ever made that was two-tone color, really cool. So I had posted pictures of it and people had bought the components off it. So I had the stator and I had the modules from it. And so yesterday I'm like, wait a minute, I've got all magnesium parts. I even have gray plastic bumpers, brand new in the box without a scratch on them that match. I could grab some grip tape and a sensor. Why don't I just build this thing?
That's nice looking.
So I built it, and I wasn't going to it wasn't a board I was building to sell. It was just, I'm like, you know what, this will be just a neat board to just bop around on. You know, a stock GT is great, the stock electronics, up to the pushback at 20. You can push past it to maybe 24, but up to 20, they're great, they're torquey, they're good boards. They get a bad rep. GTs get bad reps. They're a good board, and they're reliable.
Well, no one likes the actual wheel size. I think that's the whole
Yeah, that
thing,
was
right?
the issue. And so this has a 6-inch.
Throw on a 6-inch.
Yeah, it actually has one of your XR Classic hubs and tires that I bought from you.
There you go.
That was basically new. And so, but anyway, so I assembled that board, posted it, and all I did is I priced it out based on what would it cost for people to buy each component on the board, and what's a reasonable asking price for a stator and a battery and controller modules for a GT. No labor, no anything, and that's what I sold it for. No build cost or anything. But I bring that up because that was that's a perfect example of I am very blessed to be in this industry, because right now I think I've got enough parts to build 2 other, maybe 3 other boards the same way. Like I've got controller and battery modules laying around and stators and wheels, and I can take this out of inventory, take that out of inventory, and just build a board. And so I am very blessed by that. The reality though is that Murphy's Law kicks in. I'll build a board, and right then I get a Shopify sale for the rails that I just assembled the board on. And not that it's a problem to disassemble the board, but now the rails have been screwed on and you can see that screws are gone in the threads and stuff. Good grief. So now do I sell them as used? Well, you know, so oftentimes, even though I could build a lot more boards based on my inventory, I choose not to do it, partly because I'm like, I got to keep stuff in stock.
Right.
And I'm blessed because I'm a manufacturer. Any board that I build to sell, I have this automatic clout. So a board that I build will sell. Like I can build a board and put a few hundred miles on it and sell it as brand new. I'll tell people it's used. Here's the screenshot of the, you know, how many miles it has on it. And people will pay, you know, retail for it, even though it's used, because of who I am. And I know that. I don't charge any labor when I sell a built board. So I am very, very blessed. But the reality, though, is even though I'm blessed, I'm in the industry, I have to build boards to test anyway and all that, it still does cost me. You know, I still had to pay for production. At the end of the day, if I build a board that costs me $3,500 to build, that's still $3,500 I had to take out of inventory. You know, so I did still pay for that. So anyway, we have a rider shout out. We've got a product focus on a given product today for a giveaway. And so what do you want to do next?
Let's do, you know what? Let me talk about the jersey. So I posted the jersey. We've got 4 people that have 3 that have paid, and 1 that I'm still waiting on payment. So we still need to fill the order sheet for 11 more jerseys. And I want to try to do a cutoff of next Friday, the 27th, if we can. I want enough time so if you're going to race and you want to wear our jersey, and help shout out for the Aboveboard and TechRails, and all the rest of the vendors that are on there too. I just want to get those going because they will take like a little bit, about a month or so, maybe a month and a week to get done, based on how busy they're going to be though too. So I want to get them in there. And again, you can Zelle me, all the information's on everywhere on Facebook, I swear. You can always go to the Aboveboard Podcast page or the group, and all the information's there too. But I want to get those going. Buster and his wife Sherry have ordered some. Another gentleman has. There's one more, again, we're waiting for. So I definitely want to get going on those. So again,
It'll be a rare item.
It'll be a rare item. And hopefully, that'll be the first round and everybody will see them and they're going to want another one. And maybe the next one will, you know what? We're going to make the next one a different color too. We're going to just change it up every time. Every order we'll change the color.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, right?
Plus then you know what
version you got.
What version, yeah.
Yeah.
Gen 1, Gen 2.
Gen 1, Gen 2. We actually got Gen kind of ones, the tan ones.
Gen 0.
I put those.
Which I realized I never paid you for that jersey.
Don't you worry
Dude, those
about
are
me.
not cheap.
Nothing's cheap in the world.
Nothing's cheap in the world. I got to take better care of you on your parts.
You're fine. You give me a great deal on everything I do. I mean, I buy from you, so we're good.
Yeah, well, you got to keep breaking your appliances too, so Jeremy can come out and fix those.
I've used them for appliance repair too. I'm blessed to have you next to me, right? So that's great. Again, also too, at the end of the podcast, like I said in the last podcast, we're going to put on, would you ride this? I think we got a good one.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
We're gonna post that, and we'll talk about it. Well, we're gonna talk about it probably after we post it, and then hopefully you guys will put some information in on one of the social media so we can maybe talk about it on the next podcast. But yeah, I think it's time to. You want to call out the rider, or you want to do?
Sure. We'll do the rider shout out.
Okay.
So who's our rider shout out for the day?
Neil Bennett.
Neil is absolutely awesome.
Yes, he is.
So if you've been living under a rock and you don't know who Neil is a pro rider that rides for Future Motion.
Uh-huh.
And but he's not. I mean, he rides Future Motion boards because that's part of his thing. But he's not just a full-time employee there or whatever that pushes their stuff. Neil just loves the sport. And it is fascinating because he's a pro rider that is also a rep for Future Motion, and yet he'll give out like his information, his cell phone number, whatever.
So cool.
And he has been a wonderful resource for me.
Yeah.
He's never given me any insider info. Not that I haven't tried to get it from him. I'm like, hey, dude, what's coming? I can't share anything. Don't.
Right.
So Neil just is generally a fantastic individual. He gave you his tune for his GTS.
So I was heading up to the Windman race, my first race, and I was riding, and of course the car was driving itself because I was driving a Tesla,
Oh yeah.
And I text him or message him. I'm like, hey, let him know that I'm on my first race. I've never reached out to him before, and he was so forward of just giving me, this is what you got to tune this at. This is how you want to set your board up. You want to ride this, custom setting right here. And I was like, this, and it worked. I mean, it was so good. I mean, those are some windy trails up there.
Well, that's what he does. That's his position there, is to figure out what works best on those boards.
Amazing. So,
so yeah, he's overall a really good guy, and he's pretty good though about if somebody he has. Even though this is not his job description, he has placed himself in the position of almost being like a future motion to customer liaison.
Yeah.
I've noticed several people post something like they'll say, well, I talked to customer service and I had this concern. And Neil's like, okay, well, let me reach out and see if I can push it through for you.
Yeah.
And not that you should overload the guy with those requests, but he has been kind enough to handle some things like that. And so Neil is he's an all-around good guy. And
boy, that guy, I tell you. And he's on a lot of publications for, OneWheel where he's jumping and stuff, but I've seen him.
Yeah, fantastic rider. Well, if you're a pro-level rider, you're a good rider. But yeah.
He can jump so, it's incredible. It's just, and he doesn't, I've seen him ride. There's no footholds or anything on there, and he's just launching those boards. He's got it, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing how he can stay on that
board. Good rider,
board.
good individual. He contributes a lot to the community.
Yeah.
So that's why he's our shout out for this
super cool guy. So maybe someday, we'll see him at a race or something.
Well, I have family in Arizona, and Jeff McCosker has invited me to come out and visit TFL next time I'm in Arizona because it's still hours of driving, but I'm in Illinois. Going from here to California is a big deal. So if I do that, maybe I'll stop out at Future Motion, but also I know as I'm traveling around the country, there's a bunch of people I want to stop at, and Neil is one of them. He's one that I've had on my mind because I'm sure he'd love to connect. There's a handful of guys around the country that I've wanted to connect with. We've talked about Arkansas too.
Yeah, Arkansas. I'd love to do some Sacramento or Redding, California stop. We got old Buster out there, Buster and Sherry.
Well, and I'm going to be up in Minnesota this next week, so I'm going to look up, good grief, I'm drawing a blank.
Scott Mendenhall.
So
yes.
I'm going to look him up. So Scott, if you're watching the podcast, I'll reach out to you.
I'll
be up in Minnesota from Monday through Friday, which is, whatever that is, the 23rd through the 28th or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's that. So
yeah, I'd like to ride with Kyle one time too.
Yeah,
he's out in.
I understand he's pretty chill.
I think he is pretty chill.
Yeah,
he's probably one of the chillest guys I know.
That's what I'm thinking.
So that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, he's in Pasadena.
All right.
So, but okay. Let's talk about that company called OneWheel Parts.
Our product shout out for the day is OneWheel Parts for their grip tape. And I brought a few samples of, these are just their hexes. They also do make solid grip tape to cover the entire foot pad, but they were the ones that introduced and then subsequently popularized the hex design, and so it's available in their standard OG grip tape.
Yep.
You can get it in just hard grip tape. You can get it in 2mm foam, which is what this is. You can get it in 4mm foam. This is kind of my go-to for most of my boards. You've seen that pretty much all my boards run this.
I have it on this board right here.
There you go. Oh yeah, identical. Yeah, the same squares. Those are those 4 or 2mm?
I think they're 2s.
I think they're 2s. So then they also have printed TPU. You can get it with their logo or without the logo in a ton of different colors. This is just a small sample of colors. Gold base with blue pegs, or purple base with teal pegs. Oop. And we've got gray with blue pegs. I mean, you can choose whatever you want. And so I've been connected with OneWheel Parts for a long time. Brad Jennings, the owner, is a good friend of mine, and he's sort of the OG when it comes to grip tape. And a lot of other companies are out there, and they do a really good job. And there are companies that admittedly do more artistic stuff with TPU, and that where Brad's specialty is at OneWheel Parts is foam. He makes the best foam grip I've ever had. It stays sharp. You don't lose something about the adhesive he uses over the top of his grit that keeps the grit from falling off.
Yeah.
I've had boards where you, like with old skateboards, you got it standing up against a wall and there's a pile of grit on the floor. That doesn't happen with their foam and non-foam. Any of their abrasive grit type of grip tape, they use an adhesive over the top of the grit to keep the grit from falling off. It also means the grit stays on and stays sharp longer. It doesn't dull as quick. And then as far as their TPU, where their strength is at, is soft, spongy base with the hard pegs.
Yeah, I wonder how he does that. That's pretty cool.
If you were to do a cross section, the hard pegs are shaped like a capital I.
Yeah.
And so they're not just thermally bonded to the softer underlayer, they're mechanically bonded, like a rivet. So, and I know there's other pegged grip tape that's out there, but the way that OneWheel Parts does it is pretty unique. They're I like the really hard pegs on the soft base.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty cool.
So shout out. I've built several boards with this. Generally, the foam grip is my go-to, and I've gone between 2 and 4 millimeter. It depends on the purpose of the board.
Yeah.
If it's a board that I really just want to cruise long distance on, it'll be the 4 millimeter.
And you don't lose any type of sensitivity with that on your sensor, correct?
No, nothing. No sensitivity loss on the sensors at all. Oh, one other kind of cool thing about the way OneWheel Parts does, I don't know if it's visible here, but I'll hand this to you. See all the perforations on the back side?
Oh, yeah.
So what they do is they punch perforations into the back side of their grip tape. So when you put it down over a sensor, you don't get air bubbles trapped between the grip tape and the sensor.
Yeah.
You can still have an air bubble between the sensor and the foot pad, but you will not have a bubble between the grip tape and the sensor because those perforations allow air to pass through.
Yeah. I'll definitely take some. I'm going to put pictures of these all on the podcast. So.
And you can go right to onewheelparts.com and order from them. And so they're doing a giveaway. We get to choose the post that we are our favorite post. And Brad's giving away a $100 gift code.
That's really nice.
So product discount code. Initially, I said, well, you can give away a set of grip and make them custom. And he goes, I'd just rather give a discount code. That way people can go right onto my website and buy whatever they want and use the code. So,
and that's the cool, like I talked about last time is, we're drawing people to all of these different companies' websites and stuff. So again, if you're looking for something for your Pint or your XR or your GTS or your GT.
And I don't want this podcast to be all about TechRails. That's kind of the point.
No, exactly. I mean, it's drawing commerce to these other sites. So that's the greatest thing about it, right? It's part of the community. So,
and I will be giving away TechRails parts as well, but that's, since this podcast is a TechRails podcast, I'd rather do product focus for other people.
Yeah,
all we can.
Definitely.
But we will run out of other vendors that we can highlight. So there will
like
be
you
TechRails
said, there's not a
coming
ton of venders out there really anymore.
No,
so
a lot of them have.
We might have to recycle some vendors.
We will, and I'm sure they'll be fine with it. Coming up, we've got other giveaways. There's a TFL. Jeff McCosker told me that he'd give a discount code for a product shout out coming up here soon. So you can look out for a TFL product highlight coming up in the next one of the next few podcasts.
That's awesome.
So that is our product highlight. Again, onewheelparts.com, and go show them some love.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
So what do you want to talk about next? What do we got?
Well, the Grand Rapids just announced that they're going to have a Float Fest in August.
Really? I know nothing about this.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Again, I'll post it on the podcast. I'll post it on the the Aboveboard group page on Facebook.
How many members do you have on the Aboveboard group page so far? I'm not even
as
a member
much as
yet.
Yours.
I keep forgetting. I'm not even a member.
You're
of it
not
yet.
a member.
You need to send me an invite as an admin so I can go in and
but
butcher
you haven't
things.
accepted it yet.
You didn't? Did you
I'll
send
do it again?
You know what? So I got to bring this up too. I have 2 Facebook profiles. You probably sent it to my personal profile, and I rarely check that.
Probably did.
So I apologize for that. And in
No,
fact,
that's fine.
I have to apologize to Josh Ledford because he had sent me a question on my personal Facebook page, and I hadn't logged on to it in like a week.
Yeah.
I'm on Facebook constantly. Like, I log onto Facebook through the day, probably every 20 minutes, because I physically have to. If I don't, my DMs just stack up. So, but I hadn't checked and actually it was Brad from OneWheel Parts who had suggested that I come up with a new Facebook profile, so that way I can post personal stuff with family pictures separate from OneWheel stuff. So that's why I'm TechRails Matt, and then there's all the, TechRails Steve and TechRails Travis, all these people. And so I'm on my TechRails Matt profile all the time. So I have to apologize to Josh Ledford publicly because he asked me a question and I hadn't even checked my personal profile in a long time, and so I eventually did get back to him and all that. But if you sent me a DM to my personal Matthew Shoemaker Facebook profile, I may or may not check that, but I do check the TechRails Matt profile multiple times every day. So that's that. But so I got to check my personal profile to look for the admin.
I want to do a shout out after. Well, I want to do a shout out right now.
Oh, go ahead.
So
no, you can't. You can't. Go ahead.
In this whole process of me selling my pint, it's been taken off, it's been put back on, it's been taken off, it's been put back on. But during that process, I gained some friends, right? And one of the guys I want to shout out, his name's Eric Pearson, and he's out of Colorado. And I found out that he buys up old pints, right? And he puts them back together and puts them to use again. So he kind of, refurbishes them. Okay. And I thought it was pretty cool. He's a huge fan of you with your stuff. So
who isn't, though? I mean, really.
I know, right? It's a very limited, small, maybe population that doesn't like your
anyone
stuff.
That's as humble as I am.
I still, I don't even know anybody that doesn't like your stuff. I mean, I can't even.
There's a few people I've rubbed the wrong way. I'm kidding,
well,
but anyway.
Your stuff. Okay. Again, Eric Pearson, cool guy. I haven't actually met him. Just messaged him. We were working on maybe a deal, and it just kind of fell through. But I just want to shout him out. He's a pretty above board guy.
I'm picking up what you're throwing down.
I kind of think it's pretty cool. Again, that's pretty awesome. The Grand Rapids thing, we got that. It's the weekend, I think, of the 22nd. Again, I'll post that on the podcast. And what else we got? Am I missing something?
I don't know.
Trying to think here. Yeah, I think maybe we do the Would You Ride This?
That's what I'm thinking.
That's what I'm thinking. And you should be seeing a picture right about now. And would you ride that? Now,
so
I don't know about this.
We chatted a little bit about this before we started recording. Okay, it depends on how much you pay me. It depends. So, okay, we're going out of town, leaving this afternoon, and it's beautiful outside, and I purposely chose not to go for a ride because I thought, with my luck, I'm going to injure myself right before I go out of town. Now, I am going to bring a board with me, but we're going out of town to two different places. My wife and I are going away for a weekend thing. There's actually kind of a conference thing that we're going to, and that should be a lot of fun. And then after that, we're going up to visit her family in Minnesota, and I will be bringing a board to Minnesota. But I chose not to ride today because I'm like, if I injure myself right before the weekend, because the only time I've ever had any kind of long-term injury from a one-wheel crash happened a week before we left for a 2-week vacation with the family down to Arizona. So I've got this leg brace, whatever, and I couldn't ride a board when I was gone. And so I'm like, I don't know. So I bring that up because looking at that trail, I'm like, okay, if I knew I had no vacation pending, like I wouldn't ride it today because I would injure myself right before going out of town. If I knew that I could recuperate from an injury before anything major, I don't know, it would have to be It couldn't be wet. It would have to be dry. It depends on the board I'm riding. I'd have to be donned in all my gear.
Yeah.
And the other question is anyone watching me or not?
Yeah. I know a guy that rides in the Chicago OneWheel that would take that on in a second, and it's Dan Nolan.
Dan Nolan. Sebastian probably would too.
Yeah, but I know he would ride that route right up the front of it. So
Mike would too, Mag Spikes.
Yeah.
He's
He probably
crazy.
would too.
He's crazy.
There's a lot of those guys. And I say that because the terrain that those guys ride on, especially I keep bringing up this area up in Wisconsin, but at Silver Lake, it has nothing that gnarly, but pretty close to it. You got to come.
That's why I haven't gone. I'm a wimp when it comes to aggressive
My
trails.
first
Dave,
time going there, holy moly!
I gotta go. I want to go.
I couldn't even finish the day because I fell so many times.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to go. I guess and herein lies the problem with being in your 50s. You know, like
that's right.
I'm like, if I injured myself, I mean, I will say this. My main business, my appliance business, I do have an employee, so like, if I beat myself up a little bit, I can, I can send him out on work, and I can still fill orders for parts if I've got a sprained ankle or something. But it is at our age. When you're a kid, you fall down, you bounce, you get back up. As an adult, you fall down and break. Or
stay down.
I'm relatively fit, and so generally speaking, I can handle a fall. But it's not the same though as an adult, and you're sore if you fall as a kid, you might be a little sore the next day, maybe.
Yeah.
But as an adult, you're sore for a week.
Yes.
So I don't know. That being said, though, I'm becoming more aggressive. I mean, I'm riding faster and faster. Speed doesn't scare me anymore. It's purely duty cycle.
I know. Last year you were going so fast on those trails. It was insane.
So speed.
You get that brand new XL, and you were just.
I was going.
Whoa!
I was ripping.
Go.
But for me, it's. I mean, I've dropped down. A foot maybe. A drop off is about the furthest drop that I've done. I've never jumped. As far as, catching air and increasing altitude, I've just done drops. And again, typically about a foot is my limit. Now, I've done some pretty gnarly downhills where it's rock.
Even those, when you're riding, if you end up riding your tail, it's so slippery because of those bumpers.
Well, and if you end up tail dragging, the nose of the board gets pitched down and you begin accelerating. You can't brake. Yeah. So if it's steep enough, you lose ability to brake, which is part of why steep angle at the rear of the board is a valuable thing. So, would you guys ride that trail though? I don't know. A lot of guys. Oh, I would. I don't know. And it's hard to get a sense of scale from that picture too.
Yeah, I should put a board next to it next time.
Put a board next. Post it again right here.
I'm gonna post it. Yes. So I don't know. We'll see. I don't know if I could do it. I would definitely fall a couple times. So, and especially that log off to the right in the bigger rocks.
Yep.
I might take a couple
My
hits.
favorite riding is the crushed limestone trails.
Those are the best.
What I love about that is it's not just your normal pavement. I mean, I like riding street, but street there are some issues. The tread is so locked to the pavement that you get speed wobbles pretty easily. If you're cornering real aggressively, it sticks, but it's almost too hooked.
Right.
On the crushed limestone paths that we have out here, you can get going fast, and when you turn, there is a certain amount of mush effect, and it almost feels a little bit like snowboarding or
drifting.
Like water skiing. Yeah, because you drift just a slight amount. There's just enough movement of the crushed limestone under the tread to give you that kind of slippery
the
feel.
rolly feel.
Yeah, and there's just enough bumps to give the sense of off-road without being these rutted single-track mountain bike trails. So that's why I like those. And call me a wuss if you want, but I can go 30 miles an hour on one of those trails, and it's great. It's just enough unevenness and bumps and ruts to keep it interesting and aggressive, just enough slip to feel really good under the feet, but smooth enough to get a lot of speed. So that's what I like about those.
Oh, we forgot to say, how are we going to do this contest for OneWheel Parts?
Well, it's the best comment, but here's, okay, since it has to do with grip tape,
Yeah.
I would say the comment should be something that you guys have noticed either about the grip tape you're using. It doesn't have to be OneWheel Parts. Some observation that you've had, a funny story related to grip tape, slipping off your board, something related to grip. Like for me, I would say that I never realized why any issues with grip tape at all till I rode a little bit in the snow. Mm-hmm. And I've never ridden a one wheel in the snow, but I have a 4x4 off-road skateboard that I rode in the snow. And I've got pretty aggressive normal skateboard grip tape on that. And the tiniest bit of snow on it, it would freeze over the grip tape, and it gets slippery. So, people that talk about like using the studded, the studs on your grip tape, or part of the reason that now my new billet foot pads are going to have metal titanium studs all over the surface is because of my experience in getting snow stuck to grip tape. Mm-hmm. Dirt can wear down the sharpness of grip tape because it's abrasive. Mud can get stuck to grip tape. So what's a funny story? Time you slipped off your board with the grip tape, or a bad story that, an injury that you might have had because of slipping off a board.
Let's do this. You don't even have to do a story. Why don't you send us a video or something there too?
Video, pictures, anything, a story, video, picture, anything related to grip tape.
Spice it up a little bit.
And because that's our giveaway.
Then, we'll post it, we'll talk about the story too. But if you have a video or a picture, we can put that on the old podcast.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, anything visual, video or picture related will get extra special consideration.
I like that.
But if it's a good enough story, we'll consider that too.
Sounds good.
So, and that would be to what email address?
Aboveboardpodcast@gmail.com.
Still very few people use that. So
very few.
The odds are high that you can get this giveaway. And it's a $100 discount code off OneWheel Parts because we only get a small handful of emails at any given podcast.
Right.
So go ahead and send us your email.
Yep. All right, guys. What do you think?
I'm good.
All right. I'm good too. All right. Again, Jersey, let's do that final order by next Friday, the 27th, of March. And, keep it safe, keep it clean, keep it above board.
See you next time.
Week.
Chasing soul, send it hard, fix it.